This is the Applied Legal Research Microcertificate Secondary Sources course. My name is Celeste Pimetto Di Nicola. I will be your instructor for this course. I am a practical guidance specialist at LexisNexis, and I have been at Lexis for over 15 years in a variety of roles, all of which have served the large law firm, and law school markets. Prior to joining LexisNexis, I was a practicing attorney in Pennsylvania and New York, and I acquired my JD from the University of Pittsburgh School of Law. Feel free to use the QR code you see on your screen to connect with me on LinkedIn. Our learning objectives. Upon completion of this module and quiz, you will be able to identify leading secondary authority to answer a legal question, including doing a quality analysis of the source and effective searching. You'll also be able to use a secondary source to identify relevant primary authority on a particular legal issue. To accomplish this, we're going to use a hypothetical, which you will see appear on the screen, and I will summarize for you. RK Leasing has hired your firm to defend them in an adversary proceeding that was brought by a trustee as part of K-Star Toy Co.'s bankruptcy. Your firm plans to file a motion to set aside a default judgment in federal court in California on the grounds that the trustee failed to properly serve the corporate defendant, your client, pursuant to Rule 7004B3 of the Federal Rules of Bankruptcy Procedure. This rule states that you must serve the summons and complaint to the attention of an officer, a managing or general agent, and you are tasked with finding cases that support the improper service argument. The question we need to answer is, was service proper when the summons and complaint were sent by mail to the attention of the president or corporate officer without specifically naming them? So let's go over to Lexis Plus to begin our assignment. Now, you might be thinking, since the hypothetical asks for cases, you should start your research in case law, but that's not always the most efficient or effective starting point. And even if you took a bankruptcy course in law school, it's doubtful you dug into this particular rule of civil procedure. So all you have to begin a search are the terms included in your hypothetical. However, if you start with a treatise or secondary source, you can learn about the area of law and, in the process, acquire relevant search terms to improve your results when you're ready to run your search in case law. Moreover, you're likely to find cases cited by the secondary sources that can be used as a jumping off point to find additional authority. Now, you may be asking yourself, how do I find the best secondary source to begin with, especially in a practice area you may not be familiar with? So let's start there. Now, I'm on the Lexis Plus homepage. I'm in the legal research experience, and I'm going to use the Explore bar and select practice area. And from there, I'm going to select the practice area at issue in our hypo, which is bankruptcy law. Now I've landed on the bankruptcy law page, and this page is going to provide me with quick access to the most common resources used by bankruptcy law practitioners. So I can get directly to bankruptcy cases, the relevant statutes, courts, and regulations for this particular area of law, as well as secondary materials. You can see here under secondary materials, we identify the top secondary sources, in this case, Collier on bankruptcy. And if I expand this further, I'll get several titles, in addition to a little I box, source information description, which will give me more information about that particular source. So if I go ahead and select the I box, you can now see a description of Collier on Bankruptcy 16th edition. It includes the publisher, coverage, frequency, update schedule, and then a description of that particular resource. And I'm going to highlight this first sentence because it's particularly important for our question today. So this treatise is written and edited by leading scholars and practitioners. It's the preeminent treatise in the bankruptcy field. It's recognized as the most authoritative and comprehensive single source of bankruptcy law information. And last, but most importantly, is cited in hundreds of opinions each year. Collier's is a benchmark authority. So when you're trying to determine which source to start with, or how reliable a particular source is, the I box will always lead you to a description. And in this case, what you're reading tells you that this is a very impactful, trusted source. If it's cited by hundreds of courts in opinions each year, it's certainly something that you can rely on. Now, I also noticed down here that there's a section, sentence rather, that talks about the coverage of the Federal Rules of Bankruptcy Procedure, which in fact is our issue. And it tells me that there are chapters that are sequential to the individual rules, which is helpful information for me as I go to dig deeper into this source. So I'm going to go ahead and open Collier's on Bankruptcy. And now I have three options with which to find additional information. The first is the default, which is to search all documents within this search. So now I can enter my search terms, click the red search button, and my search will be conducted across all the chapters, the entire volume of the 16th edition, and return for me a result set that I can then filter or click in and read each of my results. I also have the ability to search by the table of contents. And that means searching not just what you see here, the chapters and chapter headings, but everything beneath too. So the chapters, the subchapters, and each of these titles can be searched by using the table of contents only, entering your search terms here, and then selecting the search button. The last way is to actually just browse the table of contents. So I want to return to our hypothetical for just a second, and I'm going to go ahead and highlight a couple of things I think are important for our particular research. So we know that our fact pattern puts us in an adversary proceeding. So this isn't the bankruptcy case itself, but rather the trustee trying to either get money back or get product back from creditors and lenders, and they commence an adversary proceeding to do that. And then I also highlighted the rule of civil procedure we're interested in, which is 7004B3. So when I come back to my table of contents, I remember from the information that it said it had dedicated chapters to each of the rules. And I can see here a section on bankruptcy rules for adversary proceedings. And if I expand that, I now see 7004, which is our rule of civil procedure talking about service. And if I continue to expand, I find a starting point, which is the section of this particular rule, which is at issue in our hypothetical. So I'm going to go ahead and open that. And what I see here is the bankruptcy rule 7004B. And we are interested in this 3, which is the service for a corporation. Now, before I go any further, I've seen enough to know that this document is helpful. And before we started today's course, I created a folder called Bankruptcy Research Project. And I'm going to go ahead and drop this particular document into that folder so that I can always return to it easily and quickly if I need to reference it later on in my research. Now, in addition, I'm going to go ahead and search within this document, and I'm going to search for the terms office or agent, because those are really the important pieces that I want to hone in on with regard to this particular section. Sorry, let's put the officer or agent. Now, by searching within the document, I now have a heat map that is added to my search terms over here on the left. And I can quickly go to that portion of the document that talks about the terms I'm interested in this case, officer or agent. And I want to focus on the footnotes. So when I jump down to the first footnote that talks about officer or agent, I see mention of a split in authority on whether the officer or agent must be specifically named. Now, that is in fact the question we are attempting to answer. What I also see are a list of cases that talk directly to this particular topic. We are in California, which happens to be in the Ninth Circuit. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the Ninth Circuit case. It'll take me directly to the discussion that is relevant and the rule section that I was researching. Now I'm going to go ahead, drop this case into my folder, and I'm going to continue to read, not together today, but I want to read that case in full. And then I'm going to jump back to my Collier's bankruptcy section. And I would likely spend my time reading all of these cases. I do see another California case. I'm just going to quickly click on that case as well. And I would go ahead and drop that into my folder as well. And now I've got two California cases that I'm pretty certain, based on the footnote, are discussing my very question and topic. And I can use those cases to further my research as well. So by starting in a secondary source, not only did I educate myself on the rule of civil procedure, but I was also able to use the footnotes within Collier's to further my research and find cases that talk directly to the question I've been asked in my hypothetical. So just as a quick review, from the home page, we selected our practice area from the Explore bar. We went into the bankruptcy law page. There we found the top treatises for bankruptcy law, that being Collier's, and we used the information box to further explore the resource to make sure it was the proper one for us to begin. We then selected it and used our browsing capabilities in the table of contents to find a starting off point. We then used that section and the footnotes of that section to quickly identify cases that were helpful and on point for our particular topic. I also utilized the folders throughout to keep track of the most important documents for this particular project. So to wrap up, upon completion of the secondary sources quiz, you will receive your micro certificate. You're eligible to earn an applied micro certificate in secondary sources, case law, statutory law, and administrative materials. If you earn all four, you can showcase your diverse legal research skills. Thank you for joining me today for the Applied Legal Research Micro Certificate Secondary Sources course. Have a great day.